We spend our waking lives inside a tiny rectangle of attention. Trees, sky, and soil blur past us, while we focus on a narrow stream of tasks and digital anxieties. Michael Pollan investigated the mechanics behind this isolation. He wanted to understand how the human brain constructs a separate self, and why that self often feels so cut off from the surrounding world. Neurologists trace this to the default mode network, the ego's biological hardware. This web handles your inner monologue and constant loops of self-judgment. By editing out millions of incoming sensory data points, it forces our focus strictly onto immediate survival. But when this survival tool becomes overactive, it turns into a modern prison. We end up pacing the anxious, walled-off confines of our own heads, largely blind to the ecosystem we actually inhabit. Aldous Huxley proposed a model predating modern neuroscience. He argued that the brain functions less as a generator of reality and more as a filter. Huxley called this the reducing valve. It funnels an infinite ocean of conscious reality into a thin trickle of information. This narrow spotlight forces us to view the natural world as dead objects, while the complex web of life disappears. Bypassing this filter reveals the world as it actually is. When the ego quiets, the boundaries we've built between ourselves and nature appear as temporary mental constructs, rather than biological facts. Our deep sense of isolation exists as a side effect of this filter, a byproduct of a brain that works almost too well at protecting us from the noise of the world. Turning our attention away from the human mind reveals a world that is shockingly active. Even in the cracks of a city sidewalk, plants and fungi are engaged in complex, purposeful behavior. Biologists define this as sentience, the ability to sense the environment, recognize a change as positive or negative, and then make a specific decision to respond. We see this intelligence in chemotaxis. The roots navigate the dark soil by sensing chemical gradients, steering around obstacles to find water while actively avoiding toxins. Research shows that certain flora possess memories that outlast many animals. While a fruit fly loses its learned responses in a single day, the Mimosa pudica plant can retain behavioral lessons for 4 weeks. Plants even communicate physical distress. When under attack, they release targeted chemical signals that warn neighboring vegetation to prepare their own defenses, or even attract the predators of the insects eating them. The world outside is a theater of constant response and improvisation, far removed from the image of a blind mechanical machine running on cold DNA. The mechanics of this awareness go deeper than roots and leaves. Scientists have identified communication networks within living tissue that operate using bioelectric fields, existing entirely outside of a centralized brain. In flatworms, invisible electrical fields, not just DNA, store the body's blueprint. Cut in half, voltage gradients dictate where the new head and tail grow. Similarly, isolated frog skin cells spontaneously organize into 3-dimensional structures that navigate mazes and swim toward targets without neural instructions. Science overlooked bioelectric fields, vanishing when an organism dies. Researchers focused on surviving DNA, missing the active electrical conversation. This research complicates the metaphor of the brain as a computer. In biology, every experience physically reshapes the brain's structure, making it impossible to separate the software of thought from the hardware of the body. Awareness appears to be a property distributed throughout biology, rather than a human trait locked safely away inside a skull. Psychologists call this lantern consciousness. It is a wide, 360-degree state of awareness found in young children and in moments of deep immersion in nature, where the world is perceived with wonder instead of utility. This expansive state stands in contrast to the spotlight of the adult ego, that narrow, anxious being we use to solve problems and manage our social standing. Stepping back into that wider awareness doesn't require radical shifts. Simple acts of cultivation, like returning to the physical sources of our food, can quiet the default mode network and soften the boundaries of the self. Eating, breathing, and observing are co-evolutionary conversations with a sentient world. They are the moments when we physically and mentally rejoin the network of life. Right-sizing the self reveals our position within a continuously awake ecosystem. We trade the isolation of a spectator for the